Hello. My fire's gone out. Let me see about getting this going again. And then we're gonna fool around again with the Godot engine some more. First things first. Look, I have only one piece of paper, but I have a whole bunch of big cartons and stuff, so these are paper grocery bags. Let's also use one of my pizza semicircles. I could be going and getting another thing of pizza pretty soon. Then I'll be stocked up on these guys. And let's see whether we can get this lit. So I had this going earlier, so it's a little bit warm in here. Ideally, I get some of the pieces of wood to catch, and then I'm off and running. Signs point to just barely. But I spoke too soon. Seems good. So what I've been doing with the Godot thing is I think I have a script attached to the zaps we were doing, and the next stage is to execute some of the game mechanics that it needs in order to work. And I believe that is what that needs in order to work. So I'll leave it to that. Hey, Hash Brown, Florian, Chad. So here's what we're up to pre-tacos today. I'm still a little bit frustrated that like this is my window onto the stream anymore. I use this older version of Chromium because it's stable and doesn't screw other things up. So I'm kind of up against it in a way because I'm using that and certain things don't break for me, but then other things like the literal YouTube Studio page do break. And at some point I'll have to figure out what to do about that. But today is not going to be that day. Oh, also, give me a second. I bet you couldn't hear me just then, could you? And that would be because I have a whole microphone that I use for that, and I did not get it out. So here's where we're at. This is the Zap. It is a billboard square that yellow square is the size of the actual thing. And the collision shape, which is something I'm going to have to be doing something about, is the sort of greenish sphere. Spheres are good for collision shapes because all it needs to do is measure whether the thing is this close in any direction. Oh yeah, no, the mic was behind my monitor. That's where it lives when not in use. So I switch over to here, and here's where I left off. Notice we got a little bit of new stuff going on. Ooh, also, look at that. That didn't actually fit on the screen properly, but I can fix that. So I'm going to go and update this a little bit. So we have more to do. And last stream I was fooling around with all of this kind of a lot. And making it so we could move around and do these things. And you need fire these zaps, which should, I stand corrected, I said it was that they should bounce off of these things, but apparently not. I had a feeling that, oh, yeah, they can. It must have been too far away. So what I've just added is this. See, they're not bouncing off of the colored ball, except for sometimes they are. And I could also be updating the bot's brain with collisions. But here's what we've got so far. And I did a whole thing of running larger and larger level counts to get to where I could, say, do level 2000 and it would not crash. I've got a bunch of different things going on, like Physics Engine is now running on a different thread. I do not yet have a, and the microphone on the ceiling is actually this microphone. It's up in the corner of the room. But yeah. So as you can see, now we have a class that is called Zap. So here's some of the code for this. And that was a mistake, so let's not do that. And let us do this. So what's happening is I've attached a script to the zaps, which are little physics engine objects, they're rigid body 3D. And if body scene file path contains Z, then we can do stuff like this. What might this be? Well, for among other things, we can be certain that they will disappear rather than bouncing. So last time I had to zoom in fairly close, but it did bounce. This time, see, we're calling Q free, which means when these contact the asteroid, no matter how close I am, they just go away. And there's more as well. I'm doing a thing where I'm checking their position. There was a thing I had to do in advance of that, or after that. See, here's physics process. So now they're checking their position. And if they are past twice the size of the world, or less than the negative world size, in other words, the world is yay big, they should be able to appear to move around in a space 3 times that size. But if they go beyond that, we call Q free. And what Q free does is it makes the shot disappear. Otherwise, they will be sticking around. I do not honestly quite know why so many of these allocations were leaked at exit. But here we are. Anywho, it's something to do with me not cleaning up after myself as I close the program. So you'll notice that position is not actually being updated. If it was, I can show you what would happen, but that's not the idea. See, if we do this, the shots will never leave the game. Like I can go, and then in theory they will come in from, yep, there they go. So there they go, and they're going to continue going, presumably until they hit an asteroid. I'm not really quite sure where they will reappear, but I fired this one string of shots and off they went. So technically, if I could just fire in every direction, next thing you know, like these will continue to be traversing through space until they hit other rocks. And if they don't, they will simply keep going. So there will be random bright, sparkly zaps just appearing out of nowhere. Because at this stage, they just cycle indefinitely. They do not actually delete themselves. And here we have these guys derping around. So what we just saw there, the really slow-moving ones, this is what happens when you shoot one of these bots with the zap and it's able to respond. My aim, not great, but see, now there were a bunch of zaps, and they're moving very slowly because I have had them refired, but the direction they're going is somewhat arbitrary. Now, why would that be? Because I have code to make it do that. I do not know if it's going to be able to run at AK360 FPS. Depends on the level. Also, let me do my usual thing. I'm throwing another log on the fire. I don't think it would be that hard to add a spark particle effect when they hit objects. I just have a different vision in mind for what I want them to actually be doing. And it'll be a little bit like a particle effect, only not. So, this is an extremely heavy log, weirdly enough. I don't know why this one weighs so much. Hardwood. That should go for a while. Yeah. So what I have, this place? Yeah, I mean that's just my wood stove. No, man, it's real. Man, woman, kitten, whatever you may be. That is real. It is simply another camera. So here is part of my idea. So if it goes outside the world boundary, two things can happen. One of them would be that it just disappears, that you call queue free, meaning that the zap will delete itself, so it doesn't matter how many of them you make, they will clean themselves up. Another one is what we're looking at right now, which is it wraps. It sort of cycles around. But here's what I think would be good. See collision shape? This thing? I can offset that by world distance so that as the zap continues to apparently go off into the distance, the collider of it snaps back to inside the world again, meaning that it could hit a object like a bot or a one of the asteroids or whatever. Because if it collides with another thing's collider, then that works. Now remember, we have sort of phantoms of all of these objects showing on the screen surrounding the much smaller area, which is actually the universe as we experience it. This is not quite an off-grid cabin. It's a house in a small Vermont town. It's kind of like in the Snowy Mountains, but this is essentially I am about 2 blocks from the pitiful combat zone that Bellows Falls has, which is not much. This is such a small town that nothing about it is particularly scary. So like the low rent district is like 3 houses, and I'm about 1.5 blocks from that. So I'm not in the boutique Tony areas, but it's completely fine. So it's not a cabin off-grid in the Snowy Mountains. This is a suburban. It's just not suburbs. It's more like low rent, whatever. Anyways, I can take this object and update collision shape or mesh instance relative to where the object is. And if the collision shape is not connected to the rigid body 3D, well, it will start reacting to things offset by the collision shape. I can demonstrate. See where it says transform over here? This can be not actually where the object is. And I'm fixing to have it move by world size so that the thing continues to keep flying off in whatever its direction. You see it going because you're looking at it represented in the game engine, but then the collider snaps to world distance away, meaning that it can bounce off of stuff that is actually in the game, as it were. So what's that going to look like? Well, we're going to move collision shape 3D, transform position. So let's get a hint as to what that's going to be called. I think it's simply going to be called transform and then position. So transform 3D origin. And I'm going to be referring to this rather than just Zap itself. Zap, it's all of the things. This is the sub-piece inside it, much like this is also a sub-piece inside it with its own transform and its own offset. I don't need to set a lifetime because once the actual object goes outside the realms of the universe, it's good. And if it collides with anything that eats it up, then it's good. So I'm going to be getting access to collision shape 3D. Now, the way we go about doing things like that is like doing this. See where it says Varimaterial or Sphere Mesh Bot Geometry? It's going to be like that. So I translate that over to what I need to do for Zap. So that's not going to be a thing. I may not need to even do that because who's to say that I'm limited to that number of zaps? Granted, if you have too many nodes, it can start to chug, but I think I can do a couple of thousand. In fact, I've done that before. So let's see, 3D Collider. Collider, what's the collider called? Collider is called Collision Shape 3D. Now that's interesting, but maybe I can fix it by doing this. Or perhaps not. I know I'm not going to be looking for a mesh there. Alrighty, so that might work. I would simply be renaming it. I've used Collider for calculations like this before. And that might actually work. Let's find out. And technically, I can straight up copy that and paste it into all of these places, and it should actually be what it needs. Oh, although, I'm looking to the wrong thing. That's more like it. Because I'm looking to get that node and change only the position of that node. Its local position is going to be 0, 0, 0, but we're going to change that. I am also not necessarily going to, that needs to be, okay. So I'm doing some of this wrong, but that's okay. I'll fix it. Don't need to do that simply because I never need to refer to position directly. Instead, what I'm going to be wanting to do is do it like this. See? So what's going to happen is this is relative to where things are on that object. Yeah, if you want to talk about collision or performance issues, this is probably going to work just fine. Watch this. Level 1000! I did this last stream and we got it up to where it could just about handle level 2000. It just sat a long time before being able to run. Oh, did I click it properly? There we go. Level 1000! I had a thing going on where it was crashing randomly, but not according to level. So here we are at level 1000. Here's where it starts to chug. 512 zaps. Well, here's a few more zaps to add. But would you believe 1,000 bots and hundreds of asteroids filling all of space? This is what the advanced level of this game is supposed to run like. Of course, the problem is I don't actually have it in playable condition because some of the gameplay elements aren't there to be used. Such as you're supposed to be able to zap these guys. If I can hit them anyhow. And it'll react. But it's also supposed to fire its own zaps in the direction of where it wants me to go, assuming it has seen the one that I seek. And it is not able to do that because I have not programmed that in yet. But here's your performance issues. We're playing level 1000, so there's a lot of these bots going around pursuing their own little paths. See, here's the pink and blue ones. A little herd of pink and blue guys running around. And stuff gets kind of jammed together. Here's a big crowd of yellow-colored guys. They want to hang around here because the positions they go to are aspects of what's on their texture. So they also all have brains. And ones like this are going to go to a lot of different places because it's going to different pixels on its texture in turn. And that's a lot of different places for it to go. And if we go in this direction, we will see that we're not actually out of the asteroid field yet because you keep going and looky there. There's just more asteroids to go through as you go. Because it's infinite space. Or for all practical purposes, infinite. They're kind of LODing in there and appearing. So you go and try to find areas like these, where this is a giant party of a hell of a lot of different bots running around. And yeah, you're supposed to pretend that they're your friends, yes. As much as you were firing little zaps in their direction. They're still your friends. So, performance issues, I'd still like to make it multi-thread a little bit more. But especially in lower levels. And some of this is up and running. Like we might not be able to query these guys with zaps and go, please point to the one that I am seeking. It is not doing that. But, oh looky, there is a yellow looking. But I don't think it's actually you. No, I know what that one is. That one's called Bob Marley because it has what looks like pot leaves on it. But if I do find whatever banana attack is, presumably a yellow-colored one, haha. So I bet you that's banana attack. Looks like a banana. Boom. So we have the level changing set up. And we also have the thing from the other game, the earlier version of this.
where if you win the level, well, those guys come towards you, but then so are the other ones. It's just taking them longer because they're farther away. But see, here's a lilac-colored one, and it is also coming to hug you. See, they're friends. They are your friends. They are all coming to hang out. Until you hit space. Oh, and look, there's 2 of those guys, which is one of the ways you can know that's not the one you seek. If there's 2 of them, then you know that's not the one you look for. And then hit space. And we're on to the next level. Oh, and that needs work. But that is the scary black hole that roars and comes at you if you run into these guys too hard. And that's something else that I'm going to try to work on. As far as these blocking your view, it was worse earlier. What this is not all that bad. So here we are, sorting out this a little bit. First things first, let's apply this everywhere it needs to be. And technically I don't need to make new X for these, but that's fine. One thing at a time, I guess. Here's the one thing at the moment, which is, rather than update that, we're going to keep doing this. And then we're going to update what position is meant to be. So that's going to be negative because new y went larger than world size, so the y position needs to drop back by world size so that it can collide with things. That one became less than 0, so that adds world size, and then same deal for these. That one becomes negative world size, that one becomes positive world size, and then all the rest of this has to be replaced with 0.0. Because you see, these are all relative to the position of the object in the world. It's going to be a little more cumbersome than I'd hoped. But it's not that bad. I just have to manually select them. I can't double click it because it's not going to include that .x. Much like that. See? And got to do these final ones. So we don't really need to be declaring these variables as we are not using them. But this should work for now. Also, if this is not actually going to be deleted, then they can bounce off of the asteroids after all. Vinegar Gem, I think if we get this working and you can get access to, let's see now. See this stuff here? It lives in, let's see, Godot projects, counterpart. So this is the game folder, and this is texture. It needs to have all this import stuff, but all you have to do is make a PNG file of an appropriate size, I think it might actually auto-calculate the size, but I think also maybe you need to have it be the correct size. See, here's the blue and purple one. All you got to do is come up with a texture that is that size as a PNG file, name it whatever you want, and it will automatically incorporate it. So yeah, you shouldn't need to make a mod to do that. I may very well end up simply open sourcing this and letting people play with it. Although I'm still tempted to try to like throw it on Steam or something fun like that. Also, let's have a quick look at that giant. Yeah, it's fine. I want to make sure that my fire doesn't go out, especially with a big log inside it. So let's boost our level up a little bit and then do another test run, because now we have a updated behavior. And I want to see whether it works. Here we are. I know some of these yellow guys are near the edges of the world, and in fact this area is an area with a bunch of these that are in fact hanging around near 0, 0. That's why they're all hanging around in this space. There's areas of black in their texture, which means that should be a phantom asteroid and not a real one. Now if I go towards it, then stuff can bounce off of it. But if I return to where those other guys were hanging out, see, I will try to find them. They're very close to the yellow ones because the yellow ones are at another limit. The idea is if there's a rock within the universe, such as this should be, then it can bounce these. So too should the bots be able to do that. But if I can find one that is just over the boundary, see that also bounces? If I can find a spot where, see, there's some more stuff bouncing around. So if that is outside the boundary, then what would be happening is the zaps are going past the boundaries of the universe and then bouncing off the yep, see, that's clearly also a bounce. That's what we're trying to do, is get it so that if I go past the range, the ones that are just representations rather than actual physics objects will still work in the same way. So that we're either inside the universe or it's working. And that's also either inside the universe or it's working. Also, when they are really far away, that makes it become extremely difficult to sort this stuff out. Because if it's so far away, you can't see what it's doing. See? That bounces. And And what I'm going to try to do is identify ones feel like that was so far away I didn't actually see the zap go. Trying to identify an area which has stuff to bounce off of. So this is clearly the 0, 0 area. Oh, I made this. This is in Godot. I do not see any bounces off of this object. But if I go past, then we've got some bounces. They're a little arbitrary. And let's see, here's this scrum over here. So the whole idea of that is to teleport it in such a way that you can still see the mesh continuing to go. Maybe what I need to do to get this to work. I'm not completely convinced it's not, but I feel that what we're doing here is firing at stuff that may be beyond the edge of the universe. And so some of them will work and some will not. Let me demonstrate that. I'm going to go right up to something. See, that is a physics object that is in the range of the universe, so stuff is bouncing off of it. And that's probably the one that I'm seeking. So there we go. One the level. There's also an amusing side effect when you do that. We zoom over to, oh, hello, have we crashed? Not quite. It just hiccuped. Oh, I know what, that was just reloading a level. Now I'm on a new level. I must have hit space by mistake. Anywho. This whole thing was about being able to let me see if I can do a different separate thing. So some of these work with mesh instances. The mesh instance is the part that you can see. If I change this, oops. Then it's not actually a collider I'm moving this time. But that's fine. So what I'm doing now is attempting to alter the position of the visible part of it. And what I'm shooting to do, because this should work if this works. I mean, isn't that usually the case of it? Like, if it works, it works. Yay, it worked, and that shows that it works. In this instance, what's going to happen is as I go nearer to the boundaries of the world, these apps should vanish. There should be a place that I can go to where if I go there, and the zone with the dark colored spots is a fine example of that. And it's found near where these brightly yellow ones are because those are near the edge of, should be able to, oh, there's a busy looking little area. Yeah, see, it's going to be like this. So where I can fire the zaps, and they go off in a direction and then bounce, it's a little hard to see. What I should see here if this is working and if I found, hang on, where'd those guys go? I'm looking for these as a sort of tip to where I want to be, but really what I'm doing is looking for the ones with really dark. And I'm looking for a bit of a scrum. It's kind of like this. So this should be around the 0 point. If I fire into the universe, we should be able to see these move around or bounce off of stuff. Like that's it, bouncing off of stuff. They're not very big zaps, but they're still. But if I shoot in this direction, which is past the realm of the universe, I should see them wink out quicker than that. And that's literally what we're seeing. So that means I can move the visual representation of these as needed. What that means is I can, if the collider stuff isn't working properly, what I can do is move the position of the object, wrap it around so that it can collide with stuff that's actually in the universe, but then move the visual representation, which I have literally here. See, I'm right up against the edge of the universe. Go farther, and they get to go off into the distance and go far away, but go nearer, and we're up against an invisible wall. And what's actually happening is the visual instance of it is reappearing on the opposite side of the universe. So this is not what I expected to see happen, but it is still a thing that happens. And what that means is we're going to put this stuff back again. And I do need the new eye and etc. So that's cool. I am going to start by copying all of it and going from there. We'll sort of drag and drop things into place. So we'll use all of this, thank you, and then we're going to consolidate and combine these. It's probably going to be complaining that I have repeatedly declared things. That's fine. So we're going to need this stuff. We'll keep the Q. Well, actually, that's weird though, because that makes it unable to disappear. Alrighty, no big deal. I'll worry about what that means later. So now we've got that restrained. This probably does nothing anymore, but that's fine. Because it'll never happen, so I don't even need to delete it. It'll just never happen. Here's the next one. Delete that. X minus. That goes there. Here's our Y. See, it's repeating stuff from earlier instances of this. Maybe I can move that. I'm not really sure. One thing at a time. I bet I can get this part working. Signs point to that I can get this part working. it might go back to the thing where the earlier chat person said, maybe you need to make a max zaps limit or a time limit, and it might need something like that. It wasn't going to need that before, but it might need it now. So there's updating zaps position for Y in both cases. And now Z, same deal. It's going to continue to complain about some of these things until I clean up my copying and pasting mess. So here's why new Z can never be less than negative world size, is because we're always bumping it back up again. So this part never gets to run. I do not know whether I can run collider position on that and sort of check it that way. But that said, I now get to delete this stuff because it's being included in here. So now if I run this again, I'm fretting a little bit over the fire not being good enough. Maybe I'll go and fix that in a moment. So here's our bots, here's our zaps, bouncing off an asteroid like this. And here is me going and finding the bright yellow ones, which are fairly close to the really dark colored ones. Oh, that looks to be a object that doesn't exist, but I bet this does. Yep. I think I just got confused by the yellow guys not being in the right place. Oh, fly through all of space for a bit, looking for areas that look like the boundaries of all space. That one's migrating. I can't go by that. And we're looking for whatever spot there is, which is close to 0, 0. I'll be able to find it if I see a bunch of really dark textured bots all milling about in the same location, because that'll tell me what I need to know. And it might be this area. See? These might all be congregating. See the dark ones? They might all be congregating around the 0, 0 space. So if I point away, we have those zaps, and they will probably, you can't really see it very well, but yeah, those are bouncing off of that asteroid. If I fire through this area, I should still see them, but I'm only seeing the mesh. Oh, and I stand corrected. I said that I was going to be able to see these zaps, but instead they've wrapped around and are existing on the other side of the universe, and it is not updating the meshes the way I thought they would. So when I fire in this direction, what is happening is these zaps are teleporting across to the other side of the cube that we're in. But what I was fixing to do, and it did not work, was make it so, yeah, fire in the direction of, and I seem to have lost them now. Where'd they go? in the direction of this. And they're disappearing, but I'm supposed to still be able to see the flash. But no, it's going through to the other side of the world. In fact, I can do this. Watch this. If I fill space with these and then go forwards, now we can see them just fine. And then if I turn around, I see them wink out of existence because I am firing past the boundaries of the world. Back up a little bit, and now you can't see them because they're teleporting to the other side of the world, much like everything else does, including myself. And then I move forwards a little bit, and here we are. So this is not working as well as I would like. Now, one thing I could do is just spawn more of them as they go around. Also, either these guys are blinking or I'm seeing more of the zaps shooting through everywhere. For instance, I bet that's a zap. Yeah. I shot so many of those guys that they are still zipping around. So, I'm not solving that just this instant. But one thing I would like to do is I would like to solve that log not burning very well. It was weirdly heavy, I know that. And one of the things that could mean, maybe it's weirdly heavy because it has moisture in it. Maybe it's just not very flammable. So what I'm going to do is take another log, lift it up and tuck the other log under it. That ought to help. Grab all of my fireplace. Gloves. Yeah, that's weirdly heavy. Wild. What it's doing being so damn heavy. Another possible explanation for it being so heavy is that it's extremely dense hardwood. Like it's a hardwood and it's a knot. It's like ironwood or something incredibly difficult to machine or cut or burn or anything of the above. But this should get it going. So we'll see how that goes. Back to our little pre-holidays Godot engine game coding thing. Oh, or could I have simply... I bet I got this backwards. Whoa up. I bet I got this backwards. I don't think it's as tough as I thought it was. Okay, so let's think this through. Let's think this through. I previously was moving the collider to be a world size back from where it started, but what we're doing now is we are moving a mesh instance that's called collider, and the actual collider and also the rigid body 3D is wrapping. Like it's moving to the it's wrapping through the universe much like everything else does. We've got 26 instances of just about everything. Bots, rocks, etc. Even more for the rocks. Simply because there need to be mesh instances that don't actually have reality to them, spaced out in every direction around a sort of giant cube in order for the world to look as big as it is. Do I put rocks below what? The firewood? No, I don't. I put smaller kindling wood below the firewood. So here's why I just went, whoa, hang on a second. I think I got that wrong. We are adjusting the position of the object to wrap, but then we are adjusting the position of what is now a mesh instance that's just randomly named Collider for no good reason, as if it was being teleported back. What that means is I should be able to reverse the polarity of this, and then maybe it will just straight work. Because we're going to be trying to teleport the world instance so that it is pretending to be where the... It's probably going to make everything get really weird, but I mean, one thing at a time. And since when has really weird stopped me or any of us? Let's see whether changing those polarities fixed it. Here we are. Here's one of my bots. Fires zaps in its direction and it doesn't respond, but that's fine. Fires zaps in the direction of a big old rock and they bounce because this is a real object. I can make it also bounce off of the bots, but that's not what I'm going to do first off. Instead, all these things are randomly placed, by the way. We're going to find the location of a bunch of guys. That is going to be an instance. That's the boundaries of a world. Well, I don't know whether this is the boundary of a world, but if it is, it worked. Okay, I'm looking for this and finding it. What's supposed to be happening is as I shoot past the limits of the world, the shot is being teleported across but what I'm seeing is not that. What I'm seeing is it just kind of disappears. If I back up a hair, we'll see it go a little farther and then vanish. Close up to where the edge of the world is. And here we are, edge of the world, but then I go through and now I can see them again. And then if I turn around, oh, well, look at you, you're responding. So these guys are supposed to soak up these little zaps. Oh, and here's one that is moving in extreme slow motion. Fancy that. You're supposed to be able to fire these zaps at these guys and get a response out of them. So one of the things I could do is just update, see where they occasionally flash. I could make them flash if hit by a zap, which would make them become a lot more active. Might get them to sort of spaz out a little bit. Oh, no, Cole Hetzel is correct. I literally was trying to reverse the polarity. It just did not help. Collider position didn't give me what I needed. So I wonder whether it's a matter of I'm still not calculating it out correctly. So here's what's happening with these. Let's just say physics process new x is position x. If it goes beyond world size, one of the things that can happen is I teleport the object minus world size. And what that's going to do, and it's being done literally right here, is the thing wraps around and reappears on the other side of the world. See, it's new x minus equals world size. Here's its new position. The other ones are the same. What's supposed to happen at that point is I'm opening up the mesh instance and setting the position of the mesh instance relative to the underlying object as exactly where it was when it was going beyond the world size. So now I'm wondering, is there some form of relative position, or are these all like, if this transform, see this transform, moves like this, that's supposed to be updating collision shape and mesh instance. You see all of that stuff moving together? That's because the underlying zap, that's being moved. That's now at negative 0.802. If I then switch over to this, the transform for it should be to the parent of that. And indeed it is. Position in parent space relative to the parent node. So updating this should make the collision shape or mesh instance or whatever not be at the location of the parent object. This is the one I'm updating. It should be able to move that mesh instance to where I can see it again. But it ain't working yet. So I don't know whether that's a thing. I don't know whether that's a thing that's going to work. Like, I should be able to do it. See, there's our transform. If I move this, I should be able to go, okay, this one's now at negative 8. See, it's negative 802. And then if this is at positive 802, or 0.802 it would have been. It looks like it's at 0, 0, but it's really not, because the overall object is here. This is the thing that I'm trying to do, it just ain't working. And I'm pretty sure that that complaint there was simply because the it figures if you move something from 0, 0, it's like, you didn't mean that, did you? Let's check. Move this from 0, 0. Yeah, they recommend that you don't transform this, because instances will the instances will override that. These are going to be in a global space. So I wonder whether I can refer to something that'll make this work. It's like node 3D ain't doing it, but there was some kind of hint. This is equivalent to the transforms transform 3D origin. Maybe if I update the transform of the, see, here's mesh, center offset. Okay, that's not going to be what I anticipated though. That is the offset of the generated plane. Look at the thing. It's moving around in screen space now. That's not going to be useful at all. So that would be cute, but also we do have a thing here. That's actually not a good one to include. So min distance, that's going to make it completely invisible at all times, and max distance, okay, so it'll start to fade away here and then fully be gone at that distance. Just for fun, let's see what this does. This doesn't solve my problem, but I'm going to probably attempt another problem. These are meant to be zaps if there's a pixel thing going on. It's not doing what I thought. That's fine. One thing at a time, I guess. You know, I never do one thing at a time. But in this case, I feel like maybe that'll be a good idea. So, unable to offset this, although I may be able to. There's a couple of things I might be able to do. My problem here is that there's going to be an issue with firing the zaps and having them impact objects. Let's quick save that. So this can never happen now. So they don't get to actually go away, and that's unfortunate. Although I could give them a counter where they count down as they go through the boundaries of the universe, and if they are less than a certain boundary, then they disappear. That could work. But yeah, the collider stuff ain't working. Hey, Jonathan. Cole, I don't so much have a vocal chain for my streams as much as, because it's in OBS, which in theory should be able to run plugins, but I haven't always found it able to do that. Once upon a time, I think I did something like that. Didn't really stick. tell you what, let's quickly comment this out while I'm at it. Because these are not doing what I wanted them to do. If I fire another zap from the position of the new one, then it will just increase the numbers of things immensely in a way that isn't great. But I'd be able to do this again? Oh no, I wouldn't, because everything would be forced to be within the boundaries of the world. Let's double check that this all still works. I'm going to move on to attempting to do a different thing, which is more important. And the new thing is, I need to be able to zap these and have them respond. See, it fired it in a different direction. A couple of them in a different direction. What must I do to make it fire them in different directions more usefully than that? Well, it's going to be in here. Here's the collider. If it collides with another bot, it synchronizes the counter. Actually, it's not, is it? It's synchronizing the counter plus rand I mod 2. I'm going to switch it to synchronize the counter perfectly and see what that gets me. Also, physics counter equals 8. Let's go and check physics counter again. Physics counter minus minus. If it is less than 1, we do this. We recalculate our location to go to. If it is less than 4, it flashes, and that's what we see. So logically, what that means is we're trying to do something like this. We're trying to override whatever body arrived, that being the thing that came in. But the first thing we can do is try to respond by overriding a physics counter. If we do this, or indeed we can even bump it over to 4 and run again. If this works and I fire at one of these guys, it should flash. Got it. So it's not lit up, but it is if I'm zapping it with these zaps. Although I'm getting it stuck at that value, so one possibility would be to update its position. See, I could have it be jittering around too. See, it's attempting to move in different ways. But that's not actively forcing it to move in different ways, is it? It's just sort of lighting up. This one will do the same. Lights up if you're hitting it, so that's cool. But it's not really doing anything else. So a collided body as zap, we should be able to override the thing. We could take, if collided position equals position, that means collided position equals the bot. but it can't occupy the same space because it has its own physics collider. So if I tell it to be literally the same thing, what's going to happen is it's either going to get blanked out in some way or just not operate properly. So instead, first let's see if we can override just the position but not the linear velocity. In other words, we might see these apps continue onwards on their path. So what we're going to do is position equals the bot's position, the one that we just hit, direction 2, and then we've got this, but it doesn't seem to be responding very well. This is meant to be the one that I'm seeking. I don't think it's really working, but or we can simply, we can have it be where player directly. So what this should do, if this works, is if you hit one of the bots, it will fire a zap back at you in the direction of you very slowly from a distance of 4.0. So this is something that we'll be able to see if it's actually working. I have a spotter appearing and coming down from the sky. I'm going to move this silly fellow over to somewhere else. Go sit on my rows. I mean no harm to the spider, but it's trying to get in shot. Spider's glamour fixation. It wants to be a star. Alrighty, so can we bounce? No? What happens when we hit this guy directly? That is not firing a new zap. Well, it kind of bounced that one, didn't it? But so simply overriding that is not helping. How are we firing these? Can we have these guys fire these? What must I do? So here's where we fire them. Zap GD load packed scene. Zap instance instantiate one. Add it to the object. Create a new one and assign its position. Its position is starting at forwards times this much, which is why it's not blanking the entire screen. And the velocity is this, but a lot more, times 64. So one thing we could do is make them go slower so that we can see what's happening a little bit easier. And then we literally copy all of this over, which is going to involve duplicating some of this stuff. For instance, it's not going to have Zap Gatherer. See, I had to make a node 3D for that. So physics counter 4 is what's making it light up. That's correct. So we will tell that to just blank. It's not going to do any of that anymore. Next, I find out whether any of this can work. So we don't get to do that. So what are we doing in player that causes this to work? We have these. In the larger class, we go up to here and add them. Just like that. Then there's initiation. That's going to help that work. So we have to make this also exist in ready for bot. And now it does. And then we have this. But I'm pretty sure this has to be defined somewhere. Oh, no, it's defined up here. Well, what are we missing then? Let's get down to where it's at. Oh, alrighty. So it's not happy about this. But I bet I know why. Yeah, because this is here. So if I rename that as lowercase zap, that may be what it needs. So transform basis has nothing to do with bot. Transform basis that, oh, are we not able to do this? Hi. Oh, can't use it before it's declared? You don't say. Well, alrighty then. Let's move this up here where we can get at it. So that might be wrong. Oh, it needs to be in this sequence. Boy, it does not like the spacing of things, does it? It doesn't like that at all. I'm reading a bit of chat, like, okay, good luck, is what I would have to say to whoever that is. So what's my sequence of events that need to happen in order for this to work? We need to insert, hello, up. Let me go and attend to this. Here's what just happened. My big, heavy, dense log here just fell over. Put another log under it. I guess this must just be like heartwood or something. It is just this incredibly heavy, dense log. I've never run across a log as heavy as that. It's ridiculous. Don't even need this now. Off you go. Yeah, for a little while there, a couple of years ago, I was making sort of abstract musical jams, and I was generating AI images explicitly to look like they were AI images and using them as like title screens, like what I was showing on the YouTube video as it was playing, and I stopped doing that because I felt it wasn't going to go very well for people. By people I mean me. it was going to end up making artists real angry. To some extent, justifiably so. So why can't I do instantiate? What's going on there? This is me trying to make this work. Well, what if... Okay, so that don't make no sense. Maybe if I do this? No, it's not happy with that either. Well, if you can do that stuff... See how it keeps jumping things over in this unreasonable way? Okay, so we can make the instance, but we can't have it named that. We'll call it this one, and that will refer to the specific one in question. So here's what we're doing now. Zap is the packed scene. Zap instantiate works when you only have that one. Gatherer means you add it, and then you have to specify the one that you've just created, and that's what gets to be updated. If this works, I can go up to one of these floating balls, fire shots at it, not on any of the asteroids, mind you. And when I hit it, it will in turn fire a zap in some direction. That appears to be doing its thing. Let's try it on another one. Let's try it on this little cluster that's disappearing inside the depths of the world. Assuming, of course, I'm even hitting them, because it's possible that I'm not. Another issue is that if I am past the boundaries of the universe, even if it's firing them, I'm not seeing them, because I'm only looking at a transform and not the actual one. Whereas if I'm looking at it from this side, then we're actually seeing something. So this would be past the edge of the universe, and so these don't connect any longer, but do they in fact light up? Because if the bot lights up, then I can see that it's affecting the actual one, even if I'm not seeing what it's firing. So that's interesting. There was a thing. Discovered a thing. You know, there are going to be many AI things saying that they took their ideas from me. Go by the results. See if it actually does what it says it does. Because it'll either do what it says it does, or it will not. So this is somewhat problematic. So, huh. Oh, yeah, possible null reference exception. That's fair. That is eminently fair. So what should be happening here is I should be able to use this to fire another zap in a direction I need to fire. So right now I'm using vector forwards, which I do not think... Ooh, also, why am I using linear velocity? Let's maybe not use that. Let's see if we can fire them more quickly. And position should be in some direction or other. Let's try having all the vectors be 1. In theory, that will fire stuff off in a sort of angle direction. And that may or may not work. But we're creating a new instance. That's what that's supposed to do. And then the one that we fired gets freed. We're hitting Q free. We're making it stop. Let's see where this gets us. I am finding many frustrations in things not working, but we'll see where things get. So let's go up to some guy in the middle of space and see what happens when we fire zaps at him. All I'm doing is missing him. Okay, some of those are kind of random, but a bunch of them are in a specific direction. It's supposed to be able to locate and only fire off in that one direction. That direction happens to be vector 1. 1 is, see, and a lot of times it seems, oh, and we have another, we have a bunch of zaps coming from the other sides of the universe that have continued to keep flying. See, those are the ones that are supposed to be there. It's just that they are teleporting through. But the one thing I am happy with about that is that at least it is like zapping in a specific direction. That part is correct. Let's go up to this guy instead. There's a nasty tendency for them to bounce in every direction. But they're supposed to do what you just see there. See that direction? That's the direction everything's supposed to go. And if we follow these, we're supposed to be able to reach the counterpart. See, that's supposed to serve a purpose. Let's bump up the speed again. So I'm supposed to be deleting the ones that aren't in use. I don't know why stuff is bouncing around the way that it is. If this one position is bot position times vector 3, 1 times 2, that should be offsetting it enough that all of the newly created ones go in the direction. And you know, I could be checking that for null objects. I absolutely could be doing that. That would be the sensiblest thing. There. So now we are trying to create that, and it's supposed to have instantiated one, added it to the place that they live, and referring to it in this way. Now we're referring to it as this is the thing that I just added. Then we update it. I wonder whether there's any delay to this instantiating. Could we only add it to the world after these things have been assigned? Let's find out. Let's find out. I don't think we get to actually do it like this, and find out, I guess. No, apparently not. Yeah, that is var zap instance. Can't do var that way. Can we do it like this? No, apparently we cannot. Huh. Why? Typecast is redundant? You don't say. It's really not happy about that. How about I just do a bunch of Command Z and get out of all of this? Because that at least did something. Now let's see whether it acts any differently now that we moved add child away from where it was. I'm going to want to make them not bounce off of the rocks too. At the moment they bounce off of the rocks, and they bounce in this very randomy way, which reminds me of how they are reacting against the bots around here. And I'd prefer them to react a little less randomly off of these. Yeah, see? It's going in directions, but it is not going in good directions. See? They're too random. It's not supposed to be doing that. It's supposed to be only firing them in the one direction that tells me what I need to know. And that's not happening right now. The previous version did. Here, you want to see what the previous version did? There's a lot of other stuff that needs to be added to this that's in the previous version too. Here's the previous version. So this is what it used to be. And you click and it fires, but they are much more consistently shooting other zaps only in a particular direction. They're firing towards the counterpart. They are also stopping in place as they go. So that's now telling me where the one I'm seeking is at, and it's off in this direction. I'm trying to do the 3D version of this game. And the one that I seek is the one that's bouncing up in the direction, like there. And it's going over towards the Guardian. But I can make it slow the heck down. And I can, if my dexterity is really good, we can touch it. And I won the level. So we're trying to do this bit in 3D space. This is the original game. It's ran in Unity. And they're making a crazy scrum. So there's a number of things wrong with this that made it not work as a game very well. And part of it is these wild wireframe things are death for streaming and made it really fail super hard. So I should be able to quit out of here. There we go. And also I have a lot of sound effects. Whereas what we've got here is the 3D Asteroids version of that. And it doesn't make any sounds, but I am shooting zaps and things, sure enough. Trouble is, I'm having issues. Maybe what I need to do is, first of all, it has a hard time even hitting anything. See, some of these guys just are not responding. Remember how in the other one it would be firing zaps off at a high rate? You'd go up to one of these guys, like this little cluster up here. These are all hanging around together because they're the same color. And see, that shot a blast of them off in that direction. You're supposed to be able to question these guys and have them fire a burst off in whatever direction you're supposed to be looking. So it gets more complicated as it goes, but that is the start. And I'm having a lot of difficulty getting these to respond. See, it's up, slow down though. That one responds. See, it's firing them. It is firing them at a distance from itself, so that's good. And it's firing them in a direction. So that's already looking better. Let's go into the zap code. And this part did not work. So what I'm going to do is defeat that and leave the queue free. The wrapping part isn't working for me. Oh, mistake. But the queue free was. So we'll simply not try to update the positions of them. They'll go right past the boundaries of the world without any trouble, which means we'll also see them if they're going off into where nothing is real, where it is nothing but renderer instances, making it look as if there are more things in the world than there are. So that's queue free. I should also have that in rock. Except for rock doesn't even have colliders, I don't think. No, it does. It does. So if we do this and you fire in the direction of a rock, and the thing that hits the rock is in fact one of the zaps, the zap hits the asteroid and is gone. Much like if the zap hits the but it is actually also gone, but it is firing a new one. So here's what's happening. The position, it's position plus vector 3, 1 times 2, and the velocity is vector 3, 1 times 32, and doing those things is firing off in a consistent direction. The direction is not useful, but the direction is at least a consistent direction. It also seemed to be starting fairly well offset, honestly. So I'm going to take it to vector 3, 1 times 1 and see what changes. How much do I need to scale it off in order to make it work? Okay, here are some guys. That looks very much like it's firing off its own zaps, and they are consistently in a direction. That direction is literal direction 111. Can I make it fire directly at the player? Let's find out. Three. Target. It's not going to be this one position. Far from it. That has nothing to do with anything. But there is a process by which I can try to get access to the player's position, and it would be direction 2. And then in here somewhere, I have private player where player. So what I'm going to do is try to make this see, and I've got another one for the counterpart, but I didn't have that working. So position direction 2 where player position. If I get this right, they'll shoot zaps back at me, which should happen at any distance. So we simply take this and we start using it in the same scenarios. If this works, anything I hit will fire directly back at me. Let's find out. I see a zap, but it doesn't look like it's moving. What's going on there? That's firing off in funny directions. Oh, am I bouncing off of the zap, which is floating here? The zap is floating there, interposing itself between me and the bot. It is there, but it's not moving. Interesting. So if I try to hit it, Zap is in fact the size of the bot. Okay. Zaps can collide with each other. That's a potentially interesting challenge. Do we have processing for in here? Does it have its own collider? I bet you that's what it is. So, what would that then mean? Target position direction 2. This one, position, is position plus target times 1. Linear velocity is target times 32, but it's acting like that is nothing. What if instead, seeing as that was always a good, like if it's creating it and it's constantly at this location, then it's continually tracking the position of the bot. Does that mean linear velocity has to be position plus position direction 2? One way to find out. If it shoots zaps back at me at a high rate of speed, that means it's working. Oh, here's some brightly colored guys. I am missing them. Ah. Okay, that just made one. So here's what is happening for what that's worth. We are implanting a zap onto the surface of this guy. It is not moving, and it is staying exactly on that, but it does not have a velocity of its own. It's just stuck. It's interposing itself, and what that means is if I fire at this one now, the shots will bounce off of the zap which is already there. Although it feels a little like they're trying to fire back at me. Also, I should have made it so they don't bounce off of the rocks. It says that. They don't bounce off of the rocks. There we are. We have one, and then all following ones are bouncing off of the little... See this thing here? It has a collider, which is a sphere that is the size of that bot. It's the same size. I know it's bigger than it looks, but that's what's causing that to happen. That also means oh, interesting. So you and you aren't acting the same. Oh, now it is. So it's got a zap stuck to its surface. That's weird. What's up with that? Maybe it is because position is target times 1. What happens if target is a little bigger than that? I remember it was firing off pretty effectively. Position is position of the bot. Position plus target times 2. That is direction to player. it is successfully pointing in my direction. In fact, it's consistently pointing in my direction, but then it's not moving. I'm updating linear velocity, but it doesn't appear to be functioning. Although I should be able to use target as a vector. Can I normalize it? It shouldn't care about that, but all the same, why not? Let's sneak up on one of these guys and fire zaps at him. Lead him. Haha. I saw something. I bet what needs to happen... Oh, and these are moving very slowly, aren't they? Those aren't going very fast at all. I think what needs to happen is zaps can't collide with zaps. How am I going to go about doing that? Because they have these little sphere colliders, but they need to not be able to collide with themselves or each other. Layer and mask. Collision objects can appear in one or more of 32 different layers. So let's figure out how to make them not collide with each other, but only with everything else. So here's collision layer. They can exist in one or more of 32 different layers. Let's see whether we can layer these things up in interesting ways. Here's our collision shape, but maybe that's not what it needs. Alrighty, so the object is in fact collision shape 3D. Mask, I need to work out what that means. Okay, so the physics layers this object is in. Object A can detect a contact with object B only if object B is in any of the layers that object A scans. Oh, there's documentation. That's always good. Let's drag this over and see what we can make of this. I'm also going to, while I'm pondering that, and I can only assume that I am still streaming. It does look like I have concurrent viewers, so there's that. Everybody stopped talking when they were talking about the guy that was like, oh, I do a much better console. I guess we'll find out. Maybe it's because I have it set to top chat. I don't normally do that. Let's have all messages be visible. Alrighty. It's going to be taco time before you know it. I'm rapidly approaching being able to have dinner. I think I'm earning it. I wonder what would happen if I was like, no, I haven't earned dinner today. My work isn't good enough. I have to starve. Then people would come mad at me. They'd be like, how dare you? You do so much work for us. Okay, so this is the densest piece of wood I've ever seen in my life. It was really heavy and it's really resistant to burning. That's just like crazy. I guess I'll keep at it. I'm amazed that it didn't like break the firewood chopping machine. They're sawing through it. It like takes 12 hours.
I also wonder whether my kettle has boiled itself dry. Signs point to my kettle totally has boiled itself dry. I'm going to deal with that now. There we go. Be right back. We're getting some snow out here today. I guess all the more reason for keeping my place warm. It's getting snowy.
There's a bunch of places out there which are not getting snow at the moment, but we are. So, collision layers. So player and enemy should collide with walls. Player should collide with enemy and coin, but enemy and coin should ignore each other. So that is going to be how to do this. So zaps should collide with everything except for each other. Can ya even do that, I wonder? Oh, there's no official Airwindows Discord. I hang out on the Surge XT Discord sometimes. There's no official Airwindows Discord. Once there was, and I abandoned it and turned it over to some of the users and never saw it again. Okay, so collision layer and collision mask. So let's make a little experiment. Here we are. Here is player. So everything gets to be layer 1. Collision layer 2, but it scans layer 1. There. So in theory, we've made zaps be in layer 2, but they are scanning for anything else. They're the only ones that can stack on top of each other. Let's see what happens. That should have done something, and it may have done something, but I don't know whether it did or not. Okay, so we can still fire zaps. The zaps can collide with rocks, which is why they went away and disappeared. It's responding. It's making that appear briefly, but so what I'm trying to work out is it firing a zap back at me? The position is correct for if it was firing a zap back at me. Unfortunately, I can't really see whether it shot a zap at me because it just sort of lights up that way very briefly. It seems to be doing it correctly, but then it's just gone again. As if the velocity was not responding. Now, if linear velocity was some completely unreasonable value because velocity actually needed to be target normalized times 32, then velocity would start at the position we see, and I can make it be larger if that would help, and then go in a direction because the velocity is not supposed to be a wildly unreasonable position, but rather just firing back. That absolutely worked. And they are bouncing off of me, which is maybe not what I need, but it's doing it. It's slightly more forgiving. Yeah. So that is successfully firing zaps directly at me, which are then bouncing off of me and going somewhere else. Neat. And the aim is really good, by the way. Let's see if we can get a guy which is far away. We totally can. Look at that. In fact, now we have a back and forth scenario. And I can duck. So this is starting to look better. It's starting to look like the behavior I'm going to need. Missed him. Or did I? No, I did not miss him completely because it just fired those. But those just went where I was. See, I can jump out of the way. This is starting to work. This is the behavior that I saw before. The thing is, it needs to be not looking for me. It needs to be looking for where counterpart. But I'm very gratified with how that's working. Also, I should put in collision, so they don't collide with each other. We need the on-body entered. Copy. And that needs to be in player. Process, physics process. You can go after process, that's fine. And then we are not going to use these. Nor are we going to use this because it doesn't even relate. So on body entered on the player, if a object hits you and it is a zap, then we tell it to delete itself at its earliest available opportunity, is what that does. Now, having added that, what's going to happen is, since we have not updated the directions and stuff, if I go up to one of these guys and zap it with a zap, oh, it didn't work. It still bounced. We have a stream of bouncing zaps until we get far enough away that the ricocheting is not perfect. Get close enough and they're just bouncing back and forth between us. So that seems a bit weird. This should be the code. Here, let me do a quick thing. So if I do this, it's not even checking to see if it is a zap. But also if I run into anything, it disappears, like this. Oh, I stand corrected. That didn't disappear at all. Alrighty, well, if that didn't disappear, what happens when we do this? Okay, it's still reflecting. I'm loving how it's responding the way that I want. Unfortunately, well, that's harmless though, because like we're not going to have it firing zaps only at me. It is firing zaps at the counterpart. So rather than having it firing them at me and then bouncing, and they are not bouncing off of each other, and that's going to help. Because before, zaps were able to bounce off of each other. They were spherical shapes, meaning that they were basically just all going off in whatever direction. So we are making significant progress. BCO4K, all of my stuff is MIT licensed open source. They're supposed to steal it. In fact, even AIs are allowed to use that because that's what an open source license is. I just don't think they're going to get anywhere with it because they don't actually have the thought. Let's see. Wood stove is going well, so that's cool. Also, I'm getting right up to thawing food out and being able to make tacos time. So this was not working, and I don't know why, but it was not working. So I'm going to delete that. Unless, of course, I had simply forgotten to save it, but I think it's fine. So here's the next thing. Is this a thing? If this is a thing, it's going to start directing me to where I need to go, at which point I have to make it a slightly more difficult game. Because what I've got now, in theory, is like infinitely easy game. Find deep blue. Okay, follow these shots. So what I don't know is whether the one that I'm seeking left. But, okay, and that one is aiming in that direction. Where did you say? That away? Thank you. Okay, how about you? That direction? Oh, that's actually very slow. I'm not quite sure what happened. Yeah, they could have got the coding wrong. It happens. Oh gosh. I'm sitting there with a bunch of like, maybe that means this is the one. Let's find out. No, it is not. Okay, where should I go? That way? Thank you. And that one thinks I should go this way. Alrighty. Ah, that was the one. Okay. Next level. You'd think so, BZO4K, but honestly, not as much as you would imagine. Like, I get to hang out with some of the coders and stuff. They are typically more interested in like existing code that's more fancily programmed than mine, to be perfectly honest. Oh, also, I have a update that I could do. Well, that's clearly saying in that direction. But are you, in fact, mother or parent? No, you're not. And we do tend to make these guys sit there, so one of the things I should do is have them check to see if their velocity is below a certain amount, and then to self-destruct if it is. But let's go in search of mother or parrot. Have you seen? It says that way. That one says that way. So there's a trick that I can use with these. Oh, Zaps came back at me. That was the one. Okay, so all of this is kind of working. It is beginning to do the thing. Well, so what's up with, what's that even? It is a darkened sphere. I don't honestly know what that's about. Alrighty, starting to work. Here's physics process. So we can do another check here. If linear velocity length is less than something rather than greater than. Oh, let's also put it in parentheses. Always nice to have parentheses. There. But that's going to make everything free. So instead, we're going to do less than. And let's see if we can check to see if it's less than what. Let's make it less than 8, because some of those were motionless, and we don't want that. Alrighty. Okay, I'm up. I did not miss those. They suggested it should go that away. Glowy, eh? How about you? He thinks glowy is in that direction. How about you? Are you glowy? I don't know if that was glowy or not. It was. Alrighty. So this mechanism works so far. It's not a game yet. And I'll tell you why. Everything always knows where the target is and always tells you exactly what direction to go. That's why. Also, I could do a little more in terms of our velocities can be a little higher. Again, times 64. Probably don't need to have the bots ramping up the velocities like that. Ooh, I should do this. We'll just do the no reference checking. There we are. So that should work just fine. We're cleaning up some of these objects, so if they are not moving real fast, they're not posing a challenge. So when we say challenge, what I mean is I can fire these zaps all I want, and they will always result in the bot in question zapping in the direction. Well, it's going mighty fast though, but if I can see what direction that's going, it's aiming right at this one. That's called very pink. Boom. And I win. So that was too easy. I also don't know what this cloud is gradually creeping up on me. That feels weird. But it may be just some, oh, I bet it's a shadow of some kind. Yeah, isn't that weird? They all have hovering shadows now for no good reason that I can see. And they're doing the thing that the previous one did, but I don't understand what the shadow business is about. And since we're on level 100, there's lots of them. And I just hit space, so this is next level. Interlocking. Interlocking is that away. So the next level of trickiness to this is to make it more difficult by not giving them perfect information. Currently, these have perfect information. Or at least, well, they would if I was able to hit the damn things. Come on. Or is one of these interlocking? That would be kind of crazy. Well, if not, it should tell me. How about you? I feel like I'm missing a lot. Ah, that one is responding. So there are a number of ways to make this more difficult. And that is firing in a direction very quickly. See, that away. Thing is, I have to go past the asteroid to get to interlocking. Because it was just firing at the asteroid because it's given perfect information for where to look. Here's a couple of guys. They say that away. That is also into an asteroid. So ideally what I would like is they need to fire at the last spot they saw the one I'm looking for. And watch this. That's interlocking. Except for I just missed him. That's interlocking. Struggling to, there we go. And I need to figure out why they are causing this big shadow behind them. Because they are all producing weird shadows behind them, which are going to become more and more dense the more than there are. That feels a little weird. But yeah, it's the end of the level, so we're getting mobbed. And they're coming around the asteroids. In fact, they are all coming, including the big giant cluster here. I don't have the Guardian, correct? Here we are at the end. Oh, that's the thing. Break is space. I am hitting space by mistake, trying to hit break, and what it's doing is it's launching a new level. So, yay for being on a new level and all, but some of the mechanics of this are not perfect. Oh. Also, it is 4:12. I should throw another log on this fire, or under this fire. It's boiled off all the water that I put in there. And then I have to scamper off and start warming up some cheese for tacos. So I'm going to be a little busy for a moment, but I'm happy to say some of this is starting to work. Screw it. I'm going to put the log on top of the fire rather than underneath it. That'll do it. That'll hold it. Alright, I will be right back. Some of the bits of the gameplay mechanics are not actually done yet.
Okay, got the stove warming up.
Got the stove warming up. Fire's going. I boiled off all the water in my kettle on top of the wood stove. But that's fine for the moment. I don't have a really good... So let's see. First of all, player, well and good. Bot, on the other hand, let's slow this down. They are no longer colliding with each other, so maybe I can make a real good directional indication out of this. Do another quick check. So what we've got now is the ability to fire very quickly. But their shots are much slower. I'm also contemplating the idea of having them continue to slow down and that is bump map. I don't know what that shadow is. That's weird. I'd like to figure that out. Big shadows here. Oh, wait, no, I know exactly what that is. They are literal shadows because I'm emitting literal light. So that's how that works. So could I have these not be opaque and cast shadows? This is also slowing things down. Over to Godot. Bot object. So these are sort of self-illuminated. Do they cast shadows? Bot mesh instance. Here's mesh instance. I can probably make that stop happening. And that'll make everything run a little bit faster too. So here's our material. Shading. Disable specular occlusion. Disable ambient light. That's correct. Ah, shadows. Disable receive shadow. What if I disable everything receiving shadows? Let's give that a try. I wonder whether, no, sampling seems fine. Disable receive shadows. Shadow to opacity. Overlaying shadows, and I don't need that. Don't need that. Rock distance fade. I am not sure that's actually helpful. Pixel alpha, no, I'm using it. I'm using it for a reason. In fact, I may even be updating it according to world distance. Okay, so let's hit save on that, hit save on that. This absolutely should not be receiving shadows. So we maybe will go in and do that too. No shadows, please. With a bit of luck, that'll make everything run lots faster as well, because I did not realize it was like taking the single light source that is part of player and rendering shadows around all of these objects. That seems madness. So, boop. Let's fire some zaps. Which direction do we go? I am missing you right and left. Come on. I'm on you. Haha. That away. Oh, no, I think they hit me. Oh, no. I just wasn't going fast enough. Autumn Browns presumably lives around here somewhere, although that would have been where it was when that was fired. However, that looks to be going in that direction. Are you, in fact, Autumn Browns? You look like you might as well have been Autumn Browns. Lost him. Oh, there he is. But sure enough, it perfectly aimed at the one that I needed. Also, this will be a fine time to see whether we're still casting shadows. No. Good. Good. That would have been expensive. I do not need to cast individual shadows for every object in this scene. That would be terrible. See, this is going to run way faster now on extremely high levels. Much like this one. Here's a whole bunch of guys all heading in my direction. I could make them head much more rapidly than that, but this is sort of doing the same thing that the other one did. The other one did it much more aggressively. And the other one had to operate on a 2D surface. This is a 3D game, so I'm getting completely mobbed by literally everything in the scene. Wouldn't it be funny if, like, so did the asteroids? The asteroids are attacking. And see if I zoom in closer. You can see the shadows kind of kicking in. It's acting a little bit weird, but all the same. And there's all my dudes. They are all approaching at a high rate of speed. This is the mob of happy bots. So, that stuff's working. And the velocity seems reasonable, although it's a bit slow, but it's fine. And having the shots not collide with each other turns out to be very important. I could also have them slow down by causing a little bit of drag to them each time. If I did that, we can do this. Then the shots all slow down. That's going to have an interesting effect. They're going to cluster up and turn into a little ball of mess. And then as they grind to a halt, they will cease to exist. Much like that. And then these are starting slower. So if you go pursuing them, they'll grind to a halt. And see, those went straight into an asteroid. That's no good at all. So that is at least one part of the puzzle. And see, that ground to a halt too. And I guess maybe that is the one. Got there. So this is making this a very easy game. We'll slow it to 1 and not slow it down nearly as much. So if they all grind to a halt, this is going to make the shots be able to go farther. Seeking Son of Aggro. So if we go in this direction, we see that they will cluster up. I can also make these more transparent than they are. Oh, also I have bonked into some of them. I think I knocked them off in a direction. That's a little bit weird, I won't lie. And that's now seeking son of aggro, but it is slowing. That's definitely not son of aggro, and it's pointing in different directions now. That suggests that son of aggro is moving around outside the bounds of space. And I've now got them slowing down as they go, so I can't follow this forever. Also, it's only being aimed once. And we are seeing that funny result, which means those are not going to the same target, are they? Sometimes it's there, and sometimes it's there, and I'll tell you why. Because it's going back and forth across the boundaries of the universe. Sometimes it's literally on the opposite side of the universe. That means some of its pixels are near zero. So this is an unanticipated difficult issue. And here's where I'm likely to find it. Some of these bursts of zaps are gradually going in this direction. Now it's heading back that way. Son of aggro is going to be giving me very different results sometimes. And my minimum speed is clearly too large. See, now it's convinced everything is on literally the opposite side of the universe, but I have a fix for that. I know how to fix that, and I'm going to show you. Bot has a check for that stuff. And it works like this. Target vector is target position minus position. If target vector length is too close to world size, target vector becomes negative what it is. So we'll copy that. And then we'll use it in here. Somehow. Well, this at least I can do. There. There's target vector. Interesting. Does that actually give me the right answer? Do I even need to do direction 2 at all? Let's find out. So that's going to be target vector normalized. Let's find out if it works. No, that's just for vector. Target vectoral. No. There we are. And now, if the apparent distance is literally across the universe, it will fire in the reverse direction as that. And that should, assuming I can hit upon I'll keep playing it until it does give me what I need. 2 blue. I bet that's not going to be what I need. But we'll find out. That away, it says. How about you? What do you say? You say through that rock. So when I have it actually checking, these are too slow. It's not able to show me where I need to go. And you are between a bunch of rocks, so you're probably not going to be able to help me. Yeah, if they are hanging around asteroids and the target goes behind an asteroid, it should be looking for the last moment that it was able to see. And that will tend to guide you around asteroids. This, rather than doing that, is going to tend to, see, I went that direction, and I lost track of whoever it was I was trying to question. It says that away. So we'll try going that away. How about, that's not going to be too blue, but do you know where to go? It says through that rock. Okay. Well, we're looking for blue, so how about we ask red? If we can hit it. We are definitely not too... Okay, it says that way. That's a blue-looking thing. How about you? Got it. So... And then the last concern for doing this, apart from let's stop the slowing them down business, that feels just annoying. I don't want it. Linear velocity not being times 99. And then if they do slow down enough, let's make it quite restrictive. Oh, that's too restrictive. Slower than 8. Because we're starting it at a speed of 16. And, oh no, let's make it the same speed as the regular zaps. That way it'll be even harder to chase. But here's the thing. It's time to make query counterpart position more difficult. So where do we first set that? So private bot where counterpart. We are in fact assigning it. We're setting it to where player where counterpart. And game is assigning player where counterpart to the one. So this is somewhat indirect, but it is in fact working. So we're going to go into bot. Where counterpart. Well, now hang on a moment. That's public, isn't it? That's public information. So if this is private vector 3, And we're doing another null check. So that should always, ooh, and we've got that condition v is finite again. Wonder what's going on with that. Also, I do not believe we have run into the guys too hard and they break. Not at this time. It's a little easier to not do that in 3D space, but it could still be a thing. So we get to update that to a position. Does the rest of it still work, I wonder? Ah. We get to use it directly. Let's see if it still works. Hey, Grants. We're playing with video games. I'm starting to make it into an actual working game. Firebits. I remember what Firebits is. Firebits is the one which is a sort of gravelly looking thing, and there's areas of bright color in it. And that one says Firebits is that away. I'm chasing the zaps. And they went in this direction, but this is in fact you are Firebits, I thought. Yeah, okay, I'm not sure why it was zapping in the wrong direction. That's weird. I should do a special thing so it doesn't do that. But it worked. It did work. It's just that where Firebits moved, it moves around. So here's how we win. If body scene file contains P, collided body is player. If collided isn't null, then if player moniker equals your moniker, that suggests that I can also refer to player's identification. Okay, so far so good. No. Where player is the link to player. And this is the bot itself. So this is checking to see if the thing that you have zapped, or the zap that is striking something, is in fact the target. If it is, it shouldn't be firing other zaps because that's meaningless. That's logical and. And here is this statement. We've made it so easy, it's going to be very easy to test this because it's just going to be like immediately find the counterpart and you're good. So if this one is not equal to null and, ooh, hang on. And let's move the add child to inside here. Do that, and then it doesn't even do it unless it has a target which is not itself. In the plasmoid. Have you seen plasmoid? Let's find out. Keep missing them. It has. It says that away. That one says that away. And you say that away, which means it's not that, but I knew that already. I can have a limited number of shots. That's one way to make it more challenging. And you say down there, huh? Okay. Through these rocks. See, if it was only able to do line of sight, I wouldn't be having that problem. Come on, you. Haha. It says this way. Let's chase him. At the moment that it is firing, it has perfect information, but then it takes a little while for any of that stuff to register. So we're going this way now, huh? We've gone through the boundaries of the universe. Let's go into a denser cluster of guys. That way, eh? How about you? What do you say? That away. And I have just teleported through the world boundaries again. Let's go over here where there's lots of world boundaries. It says that away. I see something. Looks like it could be a plasmoid. Are you plasmoid? One thing about it is it will not respond if it is in fact the counterpart. Come on. Boom. No. Okay, so it says this direction. So up here, if you add a limited number of shots, all of this will become much more insufferable. Also, my zap speed seems to be aggressively fast. Well, hang on a minute. Does that make you plasmoid? It was. Alrighty, so I don't have any good clues as to how to signify that better, but all in all, it ended up correctly doing it. So hey, 15 minutes of stream left. I have a little more fire tending to do. I am going for tacos tonight, Cole. I am looking forward to them immensely. I'm also thinking maybe my Christmas lunch and dinner tomorrow
is going to be Welsh rarebit with toast. And then after that, oh, look, birch bark. Birch bark is very flammable. And then after that, tomato soup. Because that was a, see how flammable, Robert? That's birch bark. Birch bark is very, very flammable. That's because it has a lot of oil content. It's also good for making canoes with. I'm really tempted to, I'm going to go and get some water and pour it in the kettle. So this may be an act of foolishness, or perhaps not. But I can be slightly less foolish by pouring it in a more safe location. I don't want to pour water all over the literal wood stove. It feels like it could explode. But that was fun. Alrighty. Told you birch bark burns real good.
So, we only add there is the next question. Oh, so this is a little wild. Why is on body entered indented this much, but physics process is indented this much? I don't understand that part. Let's see if I've got some form of refactor or view update. I don't know if it's going to give me that. I am looking for a convenient way to basically re-indent it, but it might not do that. I do have indent selection and unindent selection, but that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, like, clean this up, please. Let's give this a try then. Okay, that overrides. What the worried are you doing? Oh dear. Let's not look at that. It can only lead to harm. So what I'm doing is unindenting this, which does not need to be indented in the way that it is. And I don't know what happened to it that caused it to be. Let's see if it works. View, navigate, edit, edit. There. These are all supposed to line up like this. And it didn't make any sense to not have it line up like that. It was indented by mistake. It's fixed. Alrighty. So here we are. So here's bot. So bot needs to look for where player and where counterpart. If where player is not equal to null, then where counterpart equals where player, where counterpart position. That should be updating live, because it's a bot and it's a specific object with a specific identity. But what we've done here is already it sets this bot's idea of where counterpart is and then leaves it. This doesn't continue to get updated. So here's what we're going to do. Copy. There's all the instances for the rendering server. Here's physics process. We don't need to run this in process. We don't want to do this notification stuff because that stuff is fine. So if where player 1 level, this is where we are blinking the player. And then after that, because all of this should be within physics process. So there's bot being restricted to the realms of the universe. Here's bot having its acceleration length. If its length is too much, it's getting dialed back. It doesn't get to go too fast. But it is getting accelerated. Physics counter is getting updated. And it doesn't do that very often. So rather than doing that from here, or after doing it there, maybe let's do this every time it has a new thought. So here we are. Here is where it can update its idea of where counterpart is by referring to the actual location. Here's where I must make a check having to do with the raycast. That's not going to give me a raycast, but I'm probably going in the right direction. Also, it should be in a paren. Thank you. Here we go. Whoa. What did I do? Whatever I did, it wasn't the right thing. So that's not a valid statement, but I'm going to try to make a raycast, and I need to be able to raycast from position to where player, where counterpart position without being occluded by something. So that's going to require a little looking up of that on the internet. There's my window. And if this check that I'll be doing, trying to scan between the position of position, being that bot, and where player, where counterpart position, being the actual counterpart, if it is not too, another test I can do is if it's not too far. But firstly, I want to see if there's a clean line of sight between those 2 points. Because there often should be, but C#, Godot raycasting, C# 3D classes, ray and 3D classes. we can probably ignore zaps. Here's tutorials. Let's go and find how we do it. This might not be a useful tutorial. We'll see. So this is a normal thing to do. Okay, so we are in physics process, sure enough. I don't know, well, that's 2D, so that's no good. 3D, space state. So I'm doing a literal raycast query, so it's going to do something like this. 2D, no. 3D, it's what it's going to be. I don't care about area 3D, it's fine. So it's going to look something like this. Looks like I'm going to be using a space state. Let's just copy that stuff over and see if I can get it to do anything. We'll do it from here on down. So that's a thing, but cam, that's not going to be a thing. Can I? No, I can't. It needs to be a get node of some kind. I don't think it needs to be a camera. And I don't need mouse position because this has nothing to do with that. What's this target vector business? Okay, this is doing weird stuff now. What did it want? Okay. Target vector is a existing thing. If I autocomplete it, it still's not happy. Okay. Well then. Collision exception intersect array. It's 5. I may not get this done. But this will be part of the next part. Okay, so the Godot engine stuff is actually not helping me with that. But there's bound to be ways of doing it. Very few material online in C# fair. I do know that it said the results are stored in a dictionary. This is also why I don't want to do this too often. But yeah, so what we're going to do right at the moment is comment this stuff out. Honestly, I may end up using some of it. And we'll comment this out. Actually, let's not comment that out. Let's make it always run. And now we run the program once more before going and having tacos for the two of you that are here. And we're seeking aggressive Rouge and firing long-distance zaps off and missing my guy. Let's lead him a little bit better. Which direction is he going? Haha. So he says, go this way. Well, aggressive Rouge, you say? Well, it can't be all of these. So I'm betting it's this one. See? And here we are, having just one. So the next level, keep going. Sub aqua. Says that away. So it needs to not actually be firing stuff off unless the bot is in line of sight. And if it's not in line of sight, it needs to fire to wherever it last saw. So currently what it's doing is it is constantly updating with the real world position of whichever one it is. And that should do a real good job of leading me right to it. As much as I'm tending to miss these guys. Or are you in fact sub aqua? That'd be freaky. Nope, clearly not, because it says go this way. Some of the mechanics are working. That one says go this way, but it's behind the rock. Alrighty, there's the rock. And here's a bunch of guys, so the great thing about this is if we intersect lots of different guys, or, you know, I don't know who you are, but sub aqua's gonna be somebody around here. Let's bonk into all of them and see what happens. Bonk. Bonk. Well, now I'm just missing them all. Haha. Got there. Alrighty. That is indeed a sub-aqua looking thing. And on that note, I will enjoy the throng of bots currently surrounding me. And we have a semi-functional video game. Up to and including now they all chase me. They are all heading in this direction. So yeah, anytime I want, I can win the level. And what I have not yet done is figure out how to make them not know where the one I want is. I can make it so that they do not, if it's too far away, then they don't know. I can make it so if it's too far away, they don't know. But I do not have a current setup for if it doesn't have line of sight, because I need to incorporate raycasting. And I'm not quite up to speed with raycasting. But that's going to be a question for another day. It's only a little bit past 5, but I'm going to let myself go and have dinner. And I guess I'll see you folks. Thursday is Christmas Day. I'll see you folks Christmas Day. Bye-bye.